Hi, this is Brian Stevens from SPYPOINT, and I'm excited to talk with Glen Mayhew today, President of Tree Stand Safety Association. Glen has a background in hunter safety education and is a former firefighter. And hope you enjoy this super informative podcast today. Welcome to the SPYPOINT Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Stevens, and on this show, we get to talk about hunting, tactics, technology, and the inside scoop from industry pros. Follow along each month as we learn, laugh, and grow together with the passion we all have for the outdoors. This is the SPYPOINT Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Glen. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on.
Listen, it's our pleasure, and people may or may not know, but September is Tree Stand Safety Awareness Month, and so I'd love to talk with you about the mission of TSSA and how people can prevent falls, and let's talk about some of the common misconceptions about tree stand safety and anything else that you want to cover, that really talks about how we can keep all the hunters, bow hunters, men, women, children safe in the tree stand and this passion that we all love.
Yeah, I could spend all day talking about that, but I know we've only got a limited time here today on your podcast, but I sure appreciate that opportunity. Yeah, the mission of Tree Stand Safety Awareness Foundation is to significantly reduce the number of tree stand falls through promotion, education, and best practices. And we really rely on people like SPYPOINT buying into the cause because, falling from tree stands, most people don't realize is the number one cause of our deer hunters out there nationwide getting either hurt or, unfortunately, some of them actually do get killed. So all of this is preventable. So that's our sole focus, and we really appreciate all of our partners, such as SPYPOINT, joining on board with us and helping promote that message, getting it out there, what we can do to make sure we all come home safe to our family and friends.
And that's really what it's all about. Listen, we all love the outdoors. We all love being out there, whether we're harvesting an animal or not. It's that passion that we all so crave, and it's so near and dear to our hearts. But there is that safety component. And listen, I'll be the first to raise my hand that, over the years, that I have definitely, increased to my level of usage, and to now where I don't go into the woods without a safety harness because, pretty much all we do is bow hunt. But if you think about it, over the years, that trend has improved. And, let's talk about that. I mean, if you look at, let's say, the past decade, to 15 years, from your standpoint in the organization, how have you seen the trend of hunters using safety harnesses change?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot more focus on using full body harnesses. Years back, if you talk about going back a decade or so, then back then a lot of people were just using a rope around their waist or up around their chest, and that could be a death sentence. And I'm glad with technology and advancements in engineering, we've progressed from that. So we went from simply ropes around people's waist to then we advanced to what was called a chest harness. And again, if you fell with a chest harness on, a lot of times that was not a good ending that occurred with that. And then we graduated up to using the full body harnesses, which really changed the industry. It changed the whole safety mechanisms out there to making sure that we could do this safely. And if you did fall, you had an opportunity to recover from the fall. It arrested the fall, and you could get back into your stand safely and continue your hunt and ultimately go home to your family and friends. So there have been a lot of changes. In fact, I'm gonna make a big announcement right here now.
All right.
It's perfect.
Let's hear it.
For that. One of the things that we did early on in the beginning stages of Tree Stand Safety Awareness Foundation is our board set what was really at that time considered a big stretch goal for us to reduce the estimated number of tree stand falls by 50% by 2023. And the year that we had the best data on was in 2010. So we gauged that we wanted to reduce it by 50% based on that baseline data from 2010. Well, the great thing is this. Based off the 2019 data that we've been able to collect, because we're just entering into 2020, we not only met that goal early, but we have surpassed it. The latest data that we have available on a national level indicates that we have gone to now 65%. We've reduced those falls, estimated falls, by 65%.
That's outstanding.
That is just outstanding. I was, not that I could turn cartwheels, but I could have just about done it when I finished doing all the data analysis for that. And I was so excited to share this news with our board of directors and now with people like yourself so that we can get that out there. But you know what? That's taken the collective work. That's not just us doing it. It takes great organizations like your own SPYPOINT and our many other partners, both in the hunting and outdoors industry, pushing this message and getting it out there, having that common goal to do this. And that just shows when we all work together towards a common purpose or a common goal, we can achieve great things. And I would have never guessed that we would hit this early in the life of tree stand safety awareness. But I'm sure proud to be part of it, to say we've been able to do it.
Well, listen, you should be proud, and that is a huge accomplishment. And I do agree with you from the standpoint of it's really a collective effort, because I think, back in the day when, I was a young hunter, whether it was the ego thing or whatever of, I'm fine, I'm never going to fall out of a tree. And if I do, I'm fine. And I'm not going to be the guy that, has to wear a safety harness. And by having everybody in the industry and are wrapping their arms around this whole idea of, let's be safer, let's come home to our families, and your organization, really guiding that whole dialogue, I think makes it easier for everybody to know that they need to do the right thing. And it's not just for them, it's for the people they're coming home to. And so congratulations, that's huge. Are there any other things that you think contributed to such a, overachievement of that goal?
Well, I think really, a lot of our new hunters, across the nation, new hunters are having to take hunter education, and we've really helped work with different organizations, increasing the amount of information that it's included in hunter education on tree stand safety. So I think that's been a big part of it. The hunter educators across the country have done just a tremendous job, and we've worked with a lot of the states on getting better information out there to their students. The media has also played a big role. And when I say the media, I'm talking about the outdoor industry, the TV shows. We've worked with a number of the shows that are out there, trying to get them to make sure that when they're shooting their video content, that they're shooting it, showing the right practices. Because believe me, when I'm out doing a show and I ask for questions, I oftentimes get questions from the audience about a TV show, one of the hunting shows that they watch. And they will say, well, such and such does it this way. Why is he doing it this way? And I would have to explain, that maybe they weren't doing it correctly, the way that we support. And so we met with a number of different organizations, and we've seen significant improvement with that with the media help and moving that in the right direction. So I think it's all different facets. You can't hit this from one perspective. You have to hit it from many different perspectives to get that message across to all your audience out there, whether it be TV, social media, face-to-face with instruction, out doing the shows. It doesn't matter. We hit them all. That way we've got a broader impact.
No, and that makes a lot of sense. And we obviously do a lot of filming, and when we are doing shows, and it's a team effort. And so, we have two people in the tree, and you have to have a system. And I think you also have to be, for those of us that might have a video or TV kind of platform, you need to be willing to showcase the right way to do it, and if you're doing it, or could do it a better way, be flexible and willing to do that. And over the years, we've made mistakes, and I look at the system that we try to use now, and it's pretty methodical, and the one thing that I think that has helped us a lot And, and whatever company, you want to talk to that does it, but it's really the lifeline rope that's hooked from the top of the tree stand down to the bottom ladder or whatever it's connected to. But we have done, and I know personally, but, and then working with the team, when we get in out of a tree, we do not do it without a safety line. And we will travel with safety lines if they're not there set up in the tree because, and I know you know this better than anybody, but most of the time when I've almost fallen out of a tree, it's either coming up or going down. And that lifeline for us is really like part of what we do, no questions asked.
Yeah, I could not agree more with what you just said. The rope safety lines, and one of the brands is the Lifeline, and most people refer to them as Lifelines, but that is a brand name. They have made such a difference. We had the full body harnesses that came out, and then again, many people were not connecting that harness until they actually were up in the stand. And we saw so many of the falls that were actually occurring outside of the stand. In fact, when you look at the fall data on a national level, it's about 60+% of those falls actually occur off the stand. So that could be during the transition in or out, or during the climbing phase up or down. So if you were only attaching once you got into the stand, you were leaving yourself vulnerable during the most critical times, during that transition and in the ascent or descent up and down. So having the Lifeline or the rope safety lines that so there are numerous companies now that are making those, that has made just a world of difference in keeping our harness safe, being able to connect at the base of the tree and staying connected 100% of the time. And let me mention this because this is also a big question that I get. People will ask, well, I've got my rope safety line in place, but I've been disconnecting from that when I get to the top and connecting to the tree strap. And so one of the messages that we've been trying to help correct is once you get on that rope safety line, connected to it with your Prusik, you never have to disconnect that. You should stay connected to that 100% of the time.
Well, and it's nice. I mean, most of them have the ability to move it up and down. So if you're a bow hunter or drawing, you don't have to contend with an extra strap around the tree. You can adjust that rope and that knot, up and down. So when you draw your bow and whatever, that you, like you said, you never have to disengage from that rope and from the tree from the time you start climbing that ladder to the time you come down. And for me, I prefer that just because I feel like it gives me more mobility to be able to move around the tree and adjust based on the circumstances.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's almost like having an additional insurance policy being attached to that rope, because if you do slip, which the number one cause of tree stand falls is simply a slip or a loss of grip. Those things right there in itself are the number one cause day in and day out. So being attached to that rope with your Prusik line, that's your insurance policy. But we're early on in the season with September being Tree Stand Safety Awareness Month. A lot of people are out just getting their stands up. There are a few states that the seasons are already in, but let's talk about actually putting that stand up and making sure that we're attached even when we're putting our stands up. And that's using the linesman's belt or rope that you can use. And that goes around the tree and attaches to the waist area on both sides of your harness. And that's going to help keep you attached to that tree whenever you're putting your ladder sticks up or whatever it may be that you're installing and getting that stand into place. So even during that phase, we want people staying attached when they're putting stands up, when they're taking them down, when they're hunting, or even when they're practicing. A lot of people practice from an elevated position to get used to it prior to the season coming in. If you're out practicing in your backyard up in the stand, put that harness on and stay attached. That's what I call perfect practice, because you want to practice in the clothing and the equipment that you're going to be wearing when you're hunting. So stay safe even during that period.
No, there's no question. And again, being honest here, I mean, over the years, I would wear a harness in the tree and lock in and lock out and all that. But sometimes, I wouldn't wear a harness setting up a tree stand. And that to me was I look back and think, you know what, I've had a few close calls too. And that's something that, we've changed as well. And I think if you're gonna do it, you got to practice it all, because you just don't know when that slip might happen and you take the wrong step, and setting up that tree stand can be a little bit squirrely sometimes. So I wanted to just take a minute too, and you talk about a press-it knot, and and you got how you hook in the tree, and you can use that knot to slide up and down. People may not know what that is or the name of that. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about that and describe that for people that may be new to a lifeline type of system?
Sure. So the Prusik knot is what you actually connect the carabiner from your harness to, and that Prusik knot then attaches to the actual rope safety line, or again, brand name lifeline that so many people are accustomed to saying. But what that knot does, it's a really unique knot. Me having a firefighter paramedic background, I was familiar with that knot before I got into this from doing some rope work as a firefighter. But the knot reminds me, when I'm describing it to people at shows and letting them play and feel with it, it looks like a snake coiled around the main rope or the safety line. When it's applied correctly, which they come pre-tied on the rope safety lines for you, so you don't have to tie them. They come pre-tied, but it slides freely up and down that rope. But the moment that you put downward weight on that knot, it's just like a snake cinching down or coiling around and locking onto that main rope. You will not go any further. It locks onto it. And that's what's going to arrest or stop your fall when it happens, is that Prusik knot engaging on the main safety line.
Perfect. Nope, that's exactly right. You, as a prior firefighter, they explained that better than anybody could. So thank you for that. I think some people may not be, they see it and they're aware of it, but they may not know exactly what it is and how to describe it. So thank you for clarifying that. I want to ask you, if you think about all the information that's out there, there are still some people that maybe come this September that aren't going to wear a safety harness. Let's talk about that. What are some resources? What are some things? And even if it's a story, I mean, I talk about, I've had some close calls. Caleb, who, our executive producer with Copeland Creative, had films for a lot of people, and he's had a few close calls, back in the day. And these, the cameramen are carrying tons of equipment up and down. You got a bow and you do all this, and you just don't know when it's going to happen. And he had a really close call where, at the top part of the tree stand, one of the sticks, literally straps broke, and the only thing that saved him was a tree limb below him. Outside of that, he'd have fallen 25 feet. And this is years ago, and he's totally changed his whole mindset. But how do we get some of these people that are still being stubborn out there to, maybe change their perspective?
Yeah, well, one of the things I've come to realize, that doing this now for a long time, there are some, I don't care how hard I've tried and even talked to their family, and they're just not going to change. But many of them do. And so some of the things that, first and foremost, think about your family. Don't think about yourself. Think about the impact this can have on your family, whether you have whether it's a significant other or you've got kids. If you fall, there's never a good fall. I have yet to talk to anybody that hasn't had, significant injury, and sometimes completely life-altering injuries from tree stand falls. When you talk about, you mentioned falling from 25 foot up, it doesn't even take that far up.
Sure.
When you start getting anytime over 1.5 times your body height, there's enough energy there when you fall to cause significant bodily injury or death. So first and foremost, I encourage them to think about what this could do to their family and their life. We're going to have videos on our Facebook site that address some of this, that are actual interviews from people that have fallen, that didn't always wear their harness. And maybe it was that one time they had worn their harness every single time. But that one time they went out, they forgot it, and all it took was that one time, and it happened. In fact, that happened in my home county here in Virginia this past year. The gentleman went out with his son, was putting up a tree stand for the season, and he told me, he said, I wore a harness religiously. I forgot it. I was up putting the stand up, and something happened, and he fell. And thank God his son was there and was able to get to summon help. And he was paralyzed for a bit of time. He has since recovered. He's had a lot of rehab and extensive care over the last 12 months. He's still not fully recovered, but it could have been a lot worse. So it only takes that one time. The other thing that I want to address here is some of the excuses that people actually come up with. They will tell me, well, I'm not going to fall. I'm good at falling. I love that one. I'm good at falling. They'll say, I can catch a limb. I will grab a limb if I fall. And this is one of the things I'll do with that person that comes up with that particular excuse is I'll do this. I said, all right, you're a tough guy. You like to climb high, so you're going to set your stand at 30 feet. Well, if you look at the physics of that fall, if you fall from 30 feet up, when you strike the ground, your body has accelerated to 30 miles per hour. So here's what we're going to do. You and I, we're going to go out and get in my pickup truck. You're going to get in the passenger side. We're going to start down the road. When I get up to 30 miles an hour, there's a sign coming up down here. You reach out and you grab that sign when I go by it at 30 miles an hour. And all of a sudden you get this look on their face like, you're crazy. And I said, exactly, you get my point. You're not going to be able to grab onto that limb in a free fall and save yourself.
It's a great example. It's scary, but that's a great example. Yeah.
To get people's attention. I talk about the impact force of the fall. I talk, if their significant others or kids are with them, I use those to the advantage, and it's great to see people become convinced that it's the right thing to do, and especially when you're doing shows, and then they go to one of the vendors and they come back to your booth and they say, "Look, I went and bought it." Boy, that right there just makes the whole event worth it. Knowing that you've had an impact potentially on somebody's life.
No, that's great examples. Really, really good examples. Visit SPYPOINT.com/insiders to learn all about the new SPYPOINT Insiders Club that gets you incredible discounts on things like photo transmission plans and accessories, free shipping from SPYPOINT.com, exclusive content and giveaway access, and the most advanced mobile scouting tools SPYPOINT has to offer. That's SPYPOINT.com/insiders. One thing that just popped in my head is, thinking about when you're coming up and you're going down out of that tree stand and you got a backpack, you got a bow, who knows what else that you have in it. And again, if you're filming and you got a tag team effort, there's a lot of equipment that coming up and down and, camera arms and all this stuff. One of the things that I like to do is to streamline my ascent and descent down. And what I like to do is I like to take a rope and, hook it from the actual lock on or the stand and, hook my bow on the ground. And so when I get up to the top, I'm set, I'm good. Then I'll pull my bow up versus I can't tell you how many times over the years, even if you have a bow sling or you're trying to carry your bow in one hand and you're trying to carry, climb a ladder, it's room for disaster. And your bow gets hung up on a limb and and that's when things can happen. So, I have found that if I can just come up clean and come down clean and not even have to deal with my bow, that to me prevents a lot of opportunity for disaster.
Yeah, Brian, you're spot on there because that's a recipe for disaster. That's how we lose our balance or we lose our grip because we take one hand off the ladder system to try to get something unhung, and that's when the fall occurs. So yeah, you want to use a haul line to pull up your gear and lower your gear. And you can use more than one haul line if you need to. And I always advocate, too, putting that haul line on the opposite side that you're going to be climbing on, because if something were to happen, you don't want to actually have a partial fall and impact whatever's hanging there. The other thing I'll encourage people to do there with firearms, always unload your firearm, point the muzzle towards the ground. Never have that muzzle pointing towards you, whether you're pulling it up or lowering it down. Point the muzzle at the ground and have that gun unloaded. If it's a crossbow, make sure that you've got the bolt out of the crossbow when you're pulling it up or letting it down, because while people probably say, "Oh, that would never happen," believe me, I see it happen every year when I look at the data when it comes in from these states. Somebody ends up with being shot because they were pulling their gun up and the barrel was pointing towards them. The trigger hit a limb or something, and it accidentally went off, and there's never a good outcome there. So, unload and use a haul line.
Yep, that's great tips. Great tips. Let me ask you this. Let's say there's a scenario where you have somebody that's locked in, and they slip and they do fall off and they are hanging. What tips or ideas can you give somebody to safely manage the situation and get back on that lock on or tree stand safely?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and so I'm going to talk about that from two perspectives. The first one is actually being on or in the stand. So one of the best methods for preventing you from falling below the level of your stand is to make sure when you sit down in your stand that Prusik knot is high enough so that when you go to lean forward, there's not enough slack in your tether that you can lean forward far enough to even touch your toes. So as you go to lean forward, you should feel that tether pull back on you. If you've got slack in your tether and you don't have that Prusik knot up high enough, then that means you're going to have distance that you can fall before that Prusik knot is going to cinch down onto the rope safety line. And being a hunter education instructor, when I'm teaching other instructors how to be a tree stand safety instructor, we actually have them, we keep the stands at a really low level and actually have them roll out of the stand. They all think they can climb right back into their stand when they drop below it. Unless you're in really good shape and really strong, it's almost impossible to do it. So if you keep that Prusik knot up high, and a good gauge, another way to gauge this is when I'm standing on my stand, I will reach up, I will push that knot up as high as I can reach on my safety line. Then when I turn around and sit down, it should be about at the right level to minimize any distance that I fall. I want it to be, no more than a few inches. I want that tether to be snug. So that's number one.
Okay.
So what happens if I do actually fall and I can't recover, I can't get back onto my sticks, whatever it may be? So the first thing you should do anytime that happens is get out your suspension relief strap. Every full body harness comes with a suspension relief strap. That's mandatory that it be included. And that's usually a 1-inch piece of webbing that you can deploy, and it'll attach to the two attachments that are at your waist level. Remember I talked about the waist attachments that you put earlier that you were using your other line with. You would attach it there, you droop it down under your feet, pull it up tight, and tie it off where you can actually step into it, and that'll help relieve some of that pressure on the straps, the leg straps that come up across your groin. Some of the manufacturers of the harnesses now have actually done something I think is a really significant improvement in safety. They've actually pre-attached that line to your harness, so you only end up having to tie it one time. So it's already there in a pouch behind you. You just reach back, pull a little piece of Velcro loose, droop it down, pull it up tight, tie it off, and step into it. That way you can't drop it. Because, believe me, you're going to be probably nervous if something just like that happened. and I've seen people drop their suspension release strap to the ground. So, yeah, once it's on the ground, it's no use to you. So having it already pre-attached, that's a great thing to have in place. Then the next thing is always have your cell phone or some type of device for reaching out to others on your person. Having it in your pack or in a bag does no good. It may be hanging back up there 3 or 4 feet above you and you can't get to it. Or maybe it's still on the ground attached to your haul line. Have it on your person. That way, if something does happen, you've got it readily accessible, whether it's a cell phone, a whistle, a walkie-talkie, whatever you want that to be.
No, these are phenomenal tips. Is there somewhere where you guys, and I would imagine, you talked about Facebook earlier, but are there any other websites or any other platforms that has these kind of videos or testimonials that people can go back and reference and maybe read through and watch to, learn about the things we're talking about right now?
Yeah, so a couple other resources other than our Facebook page. Go to Facebook, type in Tree Stand Safety Awareness, and you'll find us. We also have a YouTube channel.
Beautiful.
So just go to YouTube, type in Tree Stand Safety Awareness, and you can find us. And same thing with our website is treestandsafetyawareness.org, and you can find resources there as well. So, we try to hit all the different areas to give people plenty of resources out there to reference to. But, yeah.
No, that's good.
Look at that. Okay. Use that as a learning tool.
No, those are great. And listen, there are a number of manufacturers out there, and so not to get into, who does what, but there are some really good companies that today it makes no sense not to find a safety harness that fits your physique, your body, that's comfortable, that's lightweight. And, they have some that are super streamlined that are, going to still do the job. They have others that have pockets and others that, you can wear, in the colder season and all that. So there's just such a variety of options for people to choose from today in a full body harness that there's just really no excuse, and at different price points too. And, to make sure that it fits, your needs, both, from a budget standpoint, but also from a safety standpoint. That it's just, like you said, it's hard to convince me that it's not, reasonable to find a safety harness that you can't wear and afford to ensure that you're safe, coming in and out of the woods.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say, I can't afford a harness. There's so many different companies that are making harnesses now. The price points, it's just like anything else. You can get a very streamlined model at a very reasonable price point, or you can get the Cadillac models if you want. But you can find what you need in your price point. And, I think about how much people spend for a new rifle or a new bow nowadays. Hey, I can get a full body harness that works perfectly for as little as $30-some now.
Yeah.
I ask you, is your life worth $30-some? I hope that answer is yes. Think about that one visit to the emergency department, what that's going to cost you out of pocket versus the $30 insurance policy there by getting a harness and then getting that lifeline. Another, $20-30 there will get you a lifeline to put in your stand. So that's a pretty cheap insurance policy to have in your back pocket.
It is, and I'll even go as far as, buy a couple of those lines. Like you said, the price point over the last few years has come down substantially. Yes, 4 or 5 years ago, some of the newer safety harnesses back in the day that had more of the streamlined design were more expensive. But there's so many different companies now making them that it is so much more affordable. And having, an extra line in your pack just in the event that somebody stole it or something, and it just doesn't prevent you from, getting in that stand and hunting. It's worth the extra $20 or $30 because, the harness is important, but that line is just, to me, just as imperative.
Yep, it is. They go hand in hand. Shouldn't have one without the other. The other thing I'll mention, the manufacturers are making them for the kids. So there's, it breaks my heart to see a kid up in a tree stand without a harness and being attached. There's no excuse for not having your kids. We want people taking the kids out, exposing them to the great outdoors and getting them out there. But let's do it safely. There's kids harnesses that are out there. There's women's harnesses that are out there. We know that's one of the fastest growing segments of the outdoors industry is women.
That's super cool.
Manufacturers are making women's harnesses for them and for all different physique types. They're out there. So the manufacturers have been smart about this and trying to accommodate the needs of the end user.
No, absolutely. You're spot on. So let me ask you this. I mean, you've provided tremendous amount of information. What are some other things that, we can look forward to from, TSSA in the future? Any things that are on the horizon that you want people to be aware of beyond all the beautiful pearls that you've shared today?
Yeah. So let me first share what our educational platform is, or our three key components.
Perfect.
Being an educator, I know people can't remember a lot of different, they're not going to remember a dozen different things, but they can remember three things. So our platform that we work off of is called the ABCs of tree stand safety.
Okay.
A stands for always remove and inspect your equipment. You mentioned that stick system where the strap broke. It was dry rotted and it broke. Stands are not designed to be left out year after year. We as hunters have to do a better job of removing our equipment after the season, bringing it in, following the manufacturer's recommendations on doing preventative maintenance and inspecting everything. So that's the A, always remove and inspect. B is buckle on that full body harness every single time you go out there, whether it's practicing, putting a stand up, taking a stand down, or hunting. And lastly is C, and C is connect before your feet ever leave the ground. If you will practice the ABCs of tree stand safety, that's going to bring you back home safe to your family and friends. So that's our platform. But you mentioned, what have we got coming? We've got a number of things on our project list that we're currently working on. One is more video development. Actually, just posted a couple new ones on our Facebook page this week. We're also looking at making the ABCs interactive. Some of the feedback that we received from hunter educators and other people was like, oh, wow, this is neat seeing it in an infographic or seeing it in a video, but can you make it to where you can click on the picture and then it does a 30-second spill on what the ABC, the A of ABC is.
Yep.
So doing ABC interactive. We also just had a big grant where we actually made banners going over different tree stand types and how to use them safely for states to use in hunter education. We're doing some ads in some of the national hunting journals, and we're working with we're looking at producing an ambassador program for tree stand safety. We're working with the International Hunter Education Association on doing some video development with them, and a lot of other things. So we've got a plate full that we're working on, and we're completely a voluntary organization, and I'm proud to serve as president of that organization, and know that we've got all of these initiatives that are going on, and we're making positive strides because of what we're doing and working with all these great partners.
That's impressive, Glenn. It truly is. Remind everybody here as we wrap it up, what are some of the digital platforms? Just again, what is the Facebook page, the website name? Just, I want to make sure, again, everybody's really clear on exactly where they can go to get some of these resources and reference them.
Absolutely. So on Facebook, in the search pane there, just type in Tree Stand Safety Awareness, and that'll take you to our page. Also, I'll let people know that we do a lot of giveaways, including SPYPOINT trail cameras on our Facebook page. So get on there, like us on Facebook. We also have an Instagram feed as well. So just type in Tree Stand Safety Awareness, and you'll find us on Instagram, on YouTube. type in tree stand safety awareness and go to our YouTube channel and follow us on that YouTube channel, as well as our website, which is treestandsafetyawareness.org, and that'll take you there, and you can find all kinds of information and resources there on our website.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you've got two ambassadors here, supporting and, appreciating all the work that you're doing. And thank you for all that you're doing to, ensure that, all of us are safe and doing the kind of work to, just go above and beyond to provide the education. And a lot of these pearls, I actually picked up a few little things today to just reinforce, and we're out this fall and doing what we do. So, Glen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, and look forward to connecting with you again in the future.
Yeah, Brian, thank you. On behalf of Tree Stand Safety Awareness, we want to thank SPYPOINT for the commitment that they've made to making sure that everybody that uses a tree stand can do it safely and come home safe to their family and friends. So thank you on behalf of TSSA.
Roger that, my friend. You be safe this fall, and we'll talk soon.
All right, take care.
Take care. Don't forget to visit spypoint.com/project for all the latest from Project SPYPOINT, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for all the latest on SPYPOINT trail cameras and the outdoors.